Great. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. So we actually had a really great roundtable yesterday talking about bringing international brands to the market, to KSA. And we talked a lot about first choosing the right partner, and not just choosing the right partner for the brand, choosing the right operator here in the region, but also you as a franchisee or as a partner choosing the right brand for you and for your market. And then we also did a lot of discussion around negotiation of terms. And for anybody who has followed the franchising industry, especially here in the region, we've really seen a big evolution in what that process looks like and what those terms look like. So my name is Rebecca Viani. I am the head of international expansion and franchising advisory with WhiteSpace Partners. We are a strategic advisory firm that works with big international restaurant brands on their international expansion and franchising strategies in Europe and the Middle East. And I'm here with two experts very familiar with this topic as well. So I'll pass it to our panelists here, starting to my right with Rana, and let you both introduce yourselves.
I'm Rana Edwards. I just had the speech before. I'm the co-founder and the VP of I Love Pokè, a brand that is present on the Italian territory with 170 stores.
Hi, I'm David, and I have a background of global franchising, working with the smallest brands to some of the world's best loved, from Hard Rock. I've advised IKEA. I've worked with a number of brands right around the world. So, and now I work as a strategic advisor to brands who are in growth mode, and as well as working deep into the boardroom as an advisor, coach, mentor, soundboard to those who are, as I say, in transformational growth.
Great. So before we jump in, just by a show of hands, do we have any people in the room who are currently looking at bringing a brand to KSA? Anybody in the room? Okay, great. And then do we have any brands that are currently looking to enter the market? Okay, very good. So we'll start with the first topic, which is choosing the right partner. This is always a very big topic and probably one of the most important decisions that both parties are going to make that are directly going to affect the success of the endeavor. So I'll start with you, Rana. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit, and talking about a little bit what we discussed yesterday as well. What goes into choosing the right partner when you're looking for?
Yeah, as I explained before in the talk, that our partners or our franchisees are selected partners that are developers. The approach that we took for Italy is that we did not give any exclusive region or any master franchise. We worked in good faith with our partners into dividing regions by units in where they feel most comfortable developing. Because they are strategically, they know strategic locations that would create the right revenue that we projected together. So this was the basis of our selection of partners. In a partner, what we look for structure for sure, because this is a young brand, so we are very overprotective of the brand and its healthy growth. We look for an operator that is a food and beverage operator, because it is a completely different segment than other retails. And we've had great success stories with our partners because they have become our parallel partner of development. So we've had a very good journey with our franchisees, and looking into different markets, this is what we're looking to replicate: long-term relationships, people that have the same objectives and goals and have the same standard of operations as we do.
Yeah, and there's also, Stephen and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, about having the value set. When you come to this market here, there's lots of money, isn't there? We're swimming with cash here, and we're blessed to have that. But it's not always about money. We're entering into this relationship that could be 10, 20 years long. And it is like a marriage that we're going into. And it's not just money. It's about personality. It's about relationship, about working together. It's about being able to really, calling people out when there is a problem, and having that deep and honest conversation. You're not representing my brand well. Yeah. And here's why, and here's what we're going to do to address this aren't we? Or, thank you so much. You know, aren't we doing a great job? Let's go again. Let's look at a neighboring territory. Let's really expand and grow together. And I think that is way more important. I'm negotiating a deal at the moment. One deal is a multi-store deal. Another deal is a much smaller deal. And we're probably going to go with a smaller deal because of that exact reason, because of the value set. And that comes when that first conversation, when you start talking about the deal and you start negotiating the deal, and the signals are there. They really are. And sometimes the color of money can be very tempting. This is a big territory deal here. You know, I'm going to land a big lump of cash here, you know. And it's so tempting. And the best thing you can ever do is stop, pause, take stock, and really look deep into the eyes of this franchisee and say, are you really going to live this better than I can or not?
And I think as a franchisee as well, it's very important to make sure that, you know, the brand that you are looking at, first of all, depending on where they come from, do they really have a team that understands international? Do they really have a team that's willing to be flexible in adaptation to the market, whether it's operations, whether it's menu, whether it's, you know, putting people in place on that team that are really going to, that have international experience, that have been to the market, operated in the market, and that comes down, I think, on both sides, because the cash is great in the beginning, but if we're in this for the long haul, like you said, David, the next 10, 20 years, there are going to be, like any marriage, highs and lows, good times and bad times, and that relationship and those core values are what's going to get you through the lows. Because if it's just about the money and it's just about the cash, we usually don't see those. You know, I wouldn't say always, but you know, the probability kind of starts to diminish, right? If that's just what it's all based on.
It's not sustainable. For sure.
Yeah, and this is really important. You know, what have you got that I haven't?
Yeah.
What have you got as a franchisee? You've got local knowledge. You've got the real detailed knowledge of this territory, how people live, how people work, how people eat out, how people socialize, the customs, the culinary differences. And I'm leaning on you for that knowledge. I'm coming to you with the ōrāculī, you know, the secret recipes, the brand presence, and all of this. And together, we are going to be so goddamn strong together.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And then looking at when we think about, you know, because obviously Saudi Arabia is a very large market. I think for a lot of international brands coming into the market, I think as a brand, obviously the easiest thing, right, is to have one partner who's going to develop out the whole country. But we also have a lot of great operators in this market that maybe are really strong in one particular region. So, David, I'll pose this question to you. What have you seen, you know, more recently in the region when it comes to territory distribution and what that looks like?
Oh man, I've been coming here for 9 years now, and I've seen deals going, the fantasy deals, like for 300. Yeah, we're going to do 300, aren't we? We're going to do it in 5 years, and we're going to really tear this nation up, you know. And we arrive, and the sense of reality sets in, and oh my God, and it falls apart.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So these fantasy deals at 250, 300 are gone, and the reality check is now, let's do 10. Let's get into bed, let's cozy up, let's spoon in the bed, and let's really make this happen. Let's make this relationship really work. Let's start in Riyadh. And you've got the option for Jeddah. You've got the option for the neighboring cities. And let's make that work. And that's what really works for me now.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, you know, if you are a potential franchisee looking to bring a brand, it's very interesting to understand what drives this brand, right? Because if you have brands that are driven by private equity, if they're publicly traded, they're looking for those big high unit announcements that they can make, you know, where we've just signed 200 units in Saudi Arabia. And for some of these guys, whether or not they hit that number is not as much of a priority as it is to be able to make those announcements for, you know, for valuation purposes or other things of that sort. Now, on one side, if I'm a franchisee, it's it's my advantage to know what really is ticking those boxes for the brand, because it puts me in a better negotiating position to know where I can negotiate harder and take more if I'm giving to them in certain areas.
Yeah, but I'm advising brands. They'll come to me and say, David, I got this coffee brand, this cafe brand, whatever it is, and I think we can do 250. We can do 200 in Saudi Arabia. And I'm talking to this guy. Well, fill your boots up. It's going to be a short conversation.
Yep.
There might be a lot of cash here, but they know the value of the money now.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
people have seen these big deals, and they've seen $1 million deals wasted. Cash down the
Do
drain.
they ever really hit those numbers?
Never.
Do they ever really hit those numbers?
No, I haven't seen a single deal. These multi-development
Over
deals.
time, right? Over time,
Yeah, for sure.
time you could definitely do it. But I think when we've seen 205 years or 105 years, or I mean, it's ambitious.
I
to say the least.
think the
And,
other thing,
from the
Rebecca,
brand.
Yeah, I think the other concept is that for most brands, we've walked out of the COVID season, of the inflation season, the war season. So brands have gone through a lot of fluctuations, even the bigger brands, where they had to sit down for a moment and reevaluate what's the strategy. Do you go for small spaces, larger spaces? What is the client waiting from us? There's a huge shift in client, what does the client want? And now we have the opportunity of working with more data-driven decisions. So it makes sense to go in steps. It makes sense to create the first triplicate of pilot. It makes sense to create scenarios where you have different types of revenues, to really study a P&L, to really study cost, and to build upon these things with a partner, because this can create, just like marriage, you create the fundamentals, and then you bring it up, you raise it up, and every year that goes on, it becomes more solid. Meanwhile, the other approaches of, the excitement of the moment or the big announcements, in this time and age where, as you said rightfully, David, the value of money is completely different, and the perspective of the investor even is different. It's not like, this is what we were sharing yesterday. I think from an investor perspective, the bigger numbers and the bigger offers and the bigger dreams of we're going to open 2,000 units have become a lot more, let's say, conservative, and it has to be data-driven. There has to be some science behind the decisions at this time and age.
So talking about a test period, because that's something I think we're seeing a lot more of now, and especially, I would say, especially if you have a brand that's coming in to KSA that doesn't have a presence anywhere else in the Middle East. I mean, if there's a presence in other markets of the Middle East, you have a little bit of a, obviously the markets are all different, but you have a little bit of an indication as far as things that you're going to run into operationally and from a number of other perspectives. But talking about that test period, let's say as a brand that's coming, that would be coming into the region, how many units is enough to really prove that test period, in your opinion?
I think
both of you.
I think it depends on the operator and their experience. So it's the operator that has to present, okay, these are for us, for example, we're a brand that has developed in locations that are office dense, in shopping centers, in food retail areas, food courts, corners inside of establishments, hotels, gyms. So it has to be like, what is the condensed areas offer? Where do other food brands aggregate? And then building upon these expectations, we build a projection of revenue, and on the basis of cost and the mini business plan that we create together, we would do a test depending on how many interesting areas there would be. So I think it's relevant or proportional to what is on the territory. If the territory presents shopping areas or shopping malls, for us when we evaluate categories of shopping malls is by density of traffic. So do we have in Riyadh the situations of 20 million traffic, 10 million traffic, 5 million traffic? So you sit with your partner and you kind of find the right number. You do the test, you give it time to develop, because you have to give it time also to have its growth curve. And on the basis of analysis, your next step. So it's not about the rigidity. I think this is a moment of flexibility. The more flexible we are, the better long-term relationships we can create. And this is what we did with our partners in Italy as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Every deal is different. Every brand is different. Every personality is different. But it's important that include the breathing space in the development plan so there is trial and allowing yourself to go again, but not allowing so much time that actually the franchisee can kind of make excuses to not have the development plan, you know, because it takes a long time, as you well know, to get the deal done, and you don't really want to be going again. So having the flexibility and spending time with that franchisee to learn and understand and really, but also push. Make sure we're time sensitive. Make sure we go. I think your principles are absolutely bang on there.
Yeah, and I think it's very important that both sides go into this period with the clear definition of who will be doing what and what that participation looks like on both sides, because I think we've all seen this a million times where you have a new franchisee, they're bringing a brand to the region, and it's not necessarily a balanced relationship when it comes to the training and support. And if you as a franchisee don't make sure that you're getting what you need and that the brand is really going to be there through that test period to work through that with you, it can be a disadvantage. So this is a very hot topic. We are doing great on time, but I do want to get into the terms because we had a really passionate conversation yesterday in our session when it came to terms. Of course, franchising has existed in the region for a very long time. Initially, what we saw, and this was years ago, 10, 20 years ago, it was always the operator, the franchisee that was seeking out the brands, right? They're going internationally, they're traveling internationally, they're going to the US or to Europe or to Asia, wherever it is, and they're finding brands that they love, and they're chasing the brand to be able to bring the brand here to Saudi Arabia. The tables are turning quite a bit, and you have a lot of brands right now who want to be here. They want to be in this market. So it's a great advantage for you as a local market. So with that, we've seen an evolution of territory fees and how those are charged. We talked a lot yesterday about the difference between fine dining brands versus casual dining and quick service brands and what that looks like from a fee perspective. So we talked about territory fees, we talked about royalty fees, which is the monthly percentage of sales that you're going to be paying to the brand, the marketing fees. So I'll start with you, David. We'll start at the end here. What have you seen? What does that evolution look like from where you sit? Because how many years have you been here in the region?
I've been in 9 now.
9 years now. So I mean, even a lot of evolution, even from when you arrived.
Just extraordinary. I remember, I can't share the brand, but the first franchise deal that I opened here is one of the brands I was running, and I looked at that journey. The brief from the guy who went in to negotiate the deal with the brand was only do 100. Just do 100. Maybe we'd do it over, I can't remember the exact years. But they came away with a deal with 250 locations over 20 years. Yeah, honestly. And now they're much more reasonable now. Yeah, we've been much more sensible. These are 5-year deals. These are relative store counts. These are respectful fees, fixed ingoing fees, and the ability to actually work together and generate perpetual earnings for the franchisor. And that's what this is all about. Accumulating long-term wealth for the brand. Let's be here, and let's be here for a very long time. Let's everybody get rich together. That's my job as an advisor, to make sure that franchisee and franchisor are going to grow together, and we craft a deal where no one feels robbed anymore. And I've seen too many of those deals where I've gone in to kind of clear up after somebody else. And you can see it. I remember one brand I worked with where you can see how the terms of the deals gone, where the instruction was go sign deals. And they signed deals, and they approved locations, and they approved CapEx. And these are crazy locations, and the stores eventually closed to get big deals. And then the franchisee has gone broke, because the franchisor has had all the money, in these $1 million signing fees and blah.
And I think you spend more on legal fees at the end of the
Totally. No, exactly. I'm picking this thing. So I think people are being way more realistic now with their deal making, which is so refreshing.
It is, yeah. And this is a word that we continue to see throughout this session is long term.
Yeah.
this is a long-term game. This is what we're looking to do when you're looking to grow a brand. It's not about, okay, I want to get the brand and I'm going to pay 7 figures for it because we have to have the brand. Then what? What comes after that? Because if you have a brand that's not successful, then it's more expensive to try to do the cleanup. And as a brand coming into the region, if it doesn't work the first time you come in, you're going to have to leave and wait 5 years before you can try again.
Yeah.
And even at that stage, it's going to be very difficult.
And I think adding to Rebecca, creating consistency is much more difficult than creating peaks of success. So this is another thing that in any type of negotiation, we always look for consistency. And the aggressive approach is an indication, as you said, that there are other intentions behind deals that are not transparent and do not do well for either side of franchisee or franchisor.
Or not enough experience to know how big of a job they're really taking on, to understand the work that goes into building and growing a brand. We could sit here and talk about this, I think, for the rest of the afternoon, but unfortunately we are out of time. James, I hope we earned our donuts. All right.
But we're in the coffee halls, and if anybody wants to stop by and talk to us.
Happy to chat more on this. Thank you, Rana. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, David.